The rain had been falling all morning, tapping gently on the windows of Alice's small room, filling the air with the scent of wet earth and damp grass. She sat by the window, chin resting in her hands, staring out at the garden that shimmered under the gray sky. There was nothing to do, and the house felt too quiet. Then, from somewhere beyond the hedges, she heard a faint ticking. Not the ticking of the old hallway clock, not the drip of rainwater into a puddle, but a crisp, steady tick-tock, like the sound of a watch held to the ear. Curiosity stirred in Alice's chest. She slipped on her shoes and hurried outside, the wet grass cold under her feet. The ticking grew louder as she reached the far end of the garden, where the hedges formed a green wall. She crouched and pushed aside a curtain of ivy, and there it was. A white rabbit, wearing a small waistcoat, stood upright, peering at a gleaming golden watch. But this rabbit was different from the one she remembered from her first trip to Wonderland. Its ears were tipped with silver, and tiny gears were just behind its eyes. Steam curled from a little vent on its back as it muttered, "Late? Late? Late?" before darting toward a hole at the base of the hedge. Without thinking, Alice followed. She slid through the hedge and into the hole, and at once the ground gave way. Down she went, tumbling past shelves lined with teak, stacks of books, and glimmering mirrors that showed strange reflections of herself. She landed softly on a carpet of moss, the air warm and filled with the scent of honey and metal. The rabbit was waiting, tapping its foot impatiently. "Come on," it said, in a voice that clicked faintly. "Time is out of order again, and we'll never fix it if you—" They set off together through a forest where the trees had clocks for faces, their branches ticking in rhythm. Each time they passed one, the hands spun wildly, sometimes forward, sometimes backward. "Time's broken," the rabbit explained. "The clockmaker has gone missing, and without him, Wonderland is losing its hours. Soon there will be no morning, no evening, just a muddle of moments." Alice shivered at the thought. She had seen Wonderland Strange before, but never like this. The rabbit led her to the edge of a river that flowed with liquid silver. They crossed on stepping stones shaped like watch faces, each one ticking as she stepped. On the other side, they entered a village where the houses leaned at odd angles, as if frozen in the middle of falling. The villagers moved in strange loops, repeating the same gestures over and over, trapped in moments that wouldn't pass. Alice felt a tug in her heart. She wanted to help them, but the rabbit urged her onward. At last, they reached a tall tower made of glass and brass, glowing faintly in the shifting light. "The clockmaker is inside," the rabbit whispered. But yes, trapped in his own invention, a great clock that's spinning too fast for anyone to reach him. They climbed the winding stairs, the air growing hotter with each step, until they came to a room where a massive pendulum swung in blinding arcs. At its center, the clockmaker sat in a cage of turning gears, his hands bound with golden chains. Alice knew she couldn't just rush in, the gears would crush her. So she watched the pendulum, timing its swing, and with a burst of courage darted forward when it slowed. She reached the clockmaker and pulled at the chains, but they were locked. "You need the key," he said, pointing to a small clock embedded in the rabbit's chest. The rabbit looked startled, then opened a hidden panel to reveal the key, gleaming like sunlight on water. With trembling hands, Alice unlocked the chains. The moment they fell away, the gears slowed, The pendulum stilled, and the room filled with a deep, steady heartbeat of time returning to its proper rhythm. The clockmaker smiled, his eyes warm. "Wonderland owes you again," he said. He turned a small lever on the wall, and the tower's windows flung open, letting in a rush of cool air. Outside, the sky shifted from dawn to noon to twilight in a smooth sweep, the hours flowing once more. Down in the village, the people broke free of their loops, laughing and moving as they should. Alice stood with the rabbit at the tower's edge, watching the land come alive again. "Will I see you again?" she asked. The rabbit's gears whirred softly. "Time will tell," it said, and then hopped away, vanishing into the forest. When Alice climbed back through the rabbit hole into her garden, the rain had stopped, and the sun broke through the clouds, painting everything in gold. She glanced at the hedge, half expectant to hear ticking again, but all was still. She smiled to herself, knowing that somewhere in Wonderland, the hours were safe, and that if time ever went astray again, she would be ready to follow the ticking.